Hey there, Careblazer. Welcome back to another episode of Careblazers TV. Today, I want to share with you 3 ways that you can communicate with your loved one. A lot of times in dementia, we communicate with our loved ones in ways that highlight their difficulties and make it really difficult for them to respond. That means the conversation stops before it even begins. It can also lead to frustration from you for not being able to engage or have a conversation with your loved one. And it can also be frustrating for your loved one who is not sure how to respond or doesn't really know what you're asking. And so these tips not only can help with the conversation, but I think it could really help improve relationships between you and your loved one. Tip number 1, when you are asking your loved one questions, try to give them the answer in your question so that even if they don't know it, they have the answer there and it's not like you're testing their memory. Sometimes caregivers want to test their loved one's memory to see how much they remember, and it just leads to frustration. For example, instead of saying, "What did you have for lunch today?" you could say something like, "Did you enjoy your turkey sandwich that you had for lunch today?" Do you see how you provided the answer in the question? That way, if they don't remember what they had for lunch, it's okay because you just told them. This is a way to help your loved one save face. A lot of times, unintentionally, when we try to talk to loved ones who have dementia, we ask them questions that they don't know, or they have to make up an answer, or they're just not quite sure how to respond. So you're able to kind of phrase your questions in a way to make it as easy as possible to have a nice conversation with them. You can also use this approach when you're trying to get information from them about what they would like or what they would want. So if we continue on the example of lunch, for instance, instead of asking your loved one what would they like for lunch, which puts a lot of pressure and energy on their brain to try to think about, okay, lunch, that's a meal, what are my options? It also opens up the door for your loved one to say something like, "I'd like an entire box of Thin Mint Girl Scout cookies," right? Something you don't want to give them, so then that leads into argument. So when you're asking them what they would like, you can also give them the answer. You can give them options, however. So you give them options that you would be okay with them choosing from. So you can say, "Would you like a turkey sandwich or grilled cheese sandwich for lunch?" Both options you're totally fine with, and they get to choose. Tip number 2 is to avoid telling them what not to do and instead tell them what to do. This might seem like a very simple tip, but it makes a lot of difference. So a lot of times when careblazers see their loved ones struggling with something or doing something incorrectly, it's very easy, it's very natural to say, "Oh, don't do it this way, try it this way," or "Here, you're doing it wrong, do it this way instead." But as much as possible, you don't want to highlight what they're doing wrong, right? Again, we're talking about saving face, helping conversations go on, helping the relationship. So you could say, "Oh, here, try it this way," or "Here, give this a try." So you basically just leave out the front part about, "No, don't do it that way," right? A lot of times people with dementia hear they're wrong or no, or they're doing it incorrectly a lot of the time because they are doing things incorrectly a lot of the time. But that wears away at the relationship. So try to leave out the part that they're doing something wrong and instead just tell them what to do. "Here, try this." Sometimes when trying to have a conversation with somebody who has dementia, it can feel like you don't know how to keep the conversation going. You ask them a question, "What did you do today?" Or "How was the walk today?" Right? And it ends up that the conversation stops pretty quickly. You don't know how to carry it on. Well, knowing what we know about dementia and that the longer term memories are more preserved rather than the short term memories, as much as possible, you want to go back to those earlier memories, go back to their childhood. So you want to ask them questions about, "Tell me about the first car that you had. Tell me about how was your wedding. Tell me about your childhood best friend. What did you do on the weekends when you were growing up? Where did you and your family go on trips?" Or whatever question you want to think of. So knowing what you know about your loved one, try to think about questions you could ask them that would trigger memories from their childhood. And that a lot of times has a lot of success in being able to move a conversation and keep it going. Now, something I want to caution you about when you do go into childhood and you start to come up with questions, you want to avoid any hot topic issues, right? Or hot button issues. So for example, a common question to get a conversation going would be, tell me about your job when you were a teenager, or tell me about your work. What did you do for work, right? Perfectly fine question. However, if your loved one is somebody who insists that they continue to work, that they still have a job, they try to wake up and get ready and go to work, and you're constantly struggling to tell them they no longer have a job and keep them at home and all of this, right? Then that's probably a topic you want to stay away from. So if you know that they have certain triggers, which hopefully you know what the triggers are for your loved one, then you want to avoid those topics. The goal here, Careblazer, with these 3 tips is you want to make conversations and interactions with your loved one as easy as possible for them. You want to save face, so try to prevent them from feeling that frustration and difficulty of not being able to answer a question. You just want to continue to work on having a nice relationship with your loved one. So I hope these 3 tips you can start using today. Try them out, see how you like them, see how your loved one responds. I hope it works for you. I'd love to know if you tried any of these, how they worked. You can leave a comment below. And as always, I'll be back next week. Careblazer, bye.